think that's
Cool.
excellently brilliant. And now we're recording as well. All right, so I'm gonna leave you two just for a few minutes. I'll go talk to Naughty Neighbor Paul.
Sweet.
Okay.
Tell us what you're doing.
So I'm doing this design and DT project. We have to interview a designer of some kind, just find out what they do in the workplace and stuff, like their processes.
Yeah.
That stuff.
Yeah,
And
nice.
I'm just gonna ask you a couple questions.
Cool.
Okay. So I'll start. Can you describe the steps you use to solve a typical project?
Ooh. I think often the first step is trying to work out what the problem is. And so often like a client will come with a problem that they think, and they're going to define it in a particular way. So they're going to say like, hey, let's say it's a branding project. Their brand has, maybe they're like, we're not connecting to young people anymore. Like we used to connect to young people, but they're all older people now, and we want to connect with, let's say, 20 to 25-year-olds again. And if they think that's their problem, then the first step is to work out if that is the problem. Like, is the problem that their brand doesn't look young enough, or is it that 20 to 25-year-olds don't care about what they do or something? So trying to dig down into what the problem actually is. And so that first step is often questioning the client and their already kind of held beliefs about what they do. So yeah, the first one would be work out what the problem is and try and tell it back to them in your own words. And that helps get everyone on the same page. So if they say their problem and word it in, like they're like, oh, we don't look young enough. Maybe that's the way they word the problem. Going back to them and going, we've chatted to some people, we spoke to some of your like other employees, maybe we've done our own research, we've looked at you and your competitors, we think your problem is this, and then they kind of agree on that. And you go, okay, we're going to start from this common place rather than just believing everything they specifically tell you. So that'd be step one. So it's sort of a bit of research, bit of interrogating the brief. Step two would be probably like working out what else is out there. And for me, it would be like taking in as much information as I can. So it's like before I can have an idea, I try and see and read and take in a lot of stuff. So if we're going to be creating a new logo, I'd like to look at a lot of logos, or I want to look at, so recently I did a job for AirAsia. And so I wanted to look at a lot of design in Southeast Asia and that region of the world and see what kind of aesthetics that they use. So it was about, I bought a couple of books and I just looked at all of this sort of design from the region and just took in a lot. Because then after that, the next step is trying to have an idea. And so you're trying to use all of the stuff you've put in and connect it in different, maybe new ways to try and work out a bit of a solution. So that stage is kind of called, you kind of got like research, and then you've probably got ideation, which is a word for kind of coming up with ideas, or concepting, which is often called as well, probably more commonly called concepting. And it's like trying to work out some solves, and it's putting lots of stuff around. Like sometimes it's done physically, where you print out a bunch of stuff and tack it onto a wall and write little post-it notes. But now there's pieces of software like Figma is one of them, Miro is another, and it's a bit like a virtual pinboard. So you just copy images from the internet and put them all around, and you can work very collaboratively. So recently I was on a Figma board, like a virtual pinboard with a guy in London. So when I would go to sleep, he would work on it and move stuff around and add all his ideas. And then I'd wake up and see his ideas and I'd work on mine. So it can be very collaborative, and you're trying to connect things in interesting ways to be able to come up with something hopefully a bit new or a bit original for the space. At that point, you probably want to develop the idea. So once you've sort of settled, you go like really wide, take in a lot of information, and then you sort of try and get down to a few options that might work. So you might end up with a bit of a range of solutions, like you might have a more conservative one that only changes their brand or their logo a little bit. And then you might have one that changes it heaps and it pushes it into a completely other area. Like you might make an art gallery look like a streetwear brand because maybe they're trying to pivot and really, really appeal to young people or something like that. So you might want to show them a big difference, and then you might want to have a like happy medium that you present as well. And then from there, it's like you develop the idea, you take on feedback from them, and then you refine it until you end up with your final result. So it kind of starts very wide and it gets slowly narrower and narrower until you kind of end up at the finished result. So it's kind of research, concepting, development, refinement. And then there's often the last stage, which is called like documentation, where you sort of write them up the rules for their brand. Like you write a little rule book, like this is the logo, only use it in these colors, these are your colors, only put the logo in these positions. And you kind of document the process so that anyone who wants to build on it or do anything has essentially a set of instructions.
Okay. So you said you use some of those resources like Figma. Do you use any other resources that you like rely on, human and non-human? And what are some of the advantages of those?
So software, I would use Figma is good because it's a space like you can collaborate in, and I work remotely. So I mainly work with Sydney companies or in Asia as well. And so having a virtual space where you can all put ideas is great. And so that's sort of what Figma is used for me. And then I make and draw things and like build everything in Adobe Creative Cloud. So that's like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. I do any animation in After Effects, which is also Adobe. And then I also design typefaces, and that's in a piece of software called Glyphs. The other, in terms of like human, and correct me if I'm like misunderstanding this part of the question, but along that like process, you're always using those pieces of software. And in that initial part, it might be like books, Pinterest, and design blogs is where you're looking to find things. So there's lots of blogs that like write articles about design and that kind of thing, and you can go through them and find ideas. Pinterest is like mass ideas, just heaps of stuff. And then there's another one called Arena. They're kind of like social medias, but for collecting little cool images. And then books. I'm trying to get more into books because they're a bit more interesting, and not if you look at Pinterest, let's say, the algorithm feeds you the same kind of stuff, and it also feeds that same stuff to other designers, and so it's harder to come up with something new or unexpected. But in terms of human, I would say it's all of the people you work with. So often in terms of the hierarchy of like a design studio, if it's small, there's not very many people there or levels, because they might have 3 people. You might have a creative director at the top, a senior designer, and a junior designer, maybe. But the bigger the place, the more kind of levels there are. And so it's probably not necessarily, there's like an executive creative director at the top, and then there's a creative director, and then there's design director, which is me. And my role is I help manage the team and I manage the project, but I'm also very much like doing all of the design myself, and I'm on the tools. Whereas the 2 levels above me it's much less designing themselves. They direct other people and they help steer the project. My role at the moment for me is perfect because it's a bit of both, which I like. Then you get senior designer, midweight, and junior, and then maybe an intern, which is hopefully a paid role. I think it's illegal to not pay them now, but places will still try and exploit graduates. So those people the whole way are a great resource for being able to help your ideas grow. So the main thing that I'll use is I'll also be seeing all of the ideas that the younger designers are putting forward.
Are these designers graphic designers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is all graphic designers. Some of them do a little bit more motion design. So they'll design the way things move. Some of them are a bit more digital design, which essentially means web focused design or app focused design. And then I'm kind of a brand designer, which is a graphic designer, but it's like a sort of subset. And that's looking holistically at the whole brand. And I also am a type designer, which means I specifically design typefaces. But on a project, you'll have quite a few people, and being able to ask them questions and see what they bring to the table, whether it's someone above you, like more senior, or below, is always really great, because you could be like, what do you think of this? And if they like your idea, it helps you kind of believe in it so that you can kind of keep it going and pour more energy in. And you get more people excited about it that can then contribute. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Why did you become a graphic designer, and are there like any degrees you did to get into it?
Yeah, so I became a graphic designer because, well, obviously Dad was a graphic designer, so I always knew what it was as a job, and I thought it was pretty cool. But weirdly, I think the decision was made because I got to the partway through year 12, and when you apply for uni, you've got to put your course down. Like, you've got to pick a course that's your number one or number two or number three that you want to get into. And I just thought that one sounded the coolest. It was like called creative advertising and graphic design and photography and illustration. I don't know why there was so many words. It was just it wasn't even a double major, I don't think. But I was just like, those things are all the things I like doing. I like drawing. I find photography fun. I also did a couple of like units on filmmaking and stuff, and it was just what I thought was fun. It was just stuff I liked doing. And then once I started it, I think I liked it immediately. It was a really good degree. So it was a degree at university, a Bachelor of Arts. And it was just a good one to do if you like pouring heaps of time into things. Like, it's one of those ones where you can just, if you put a lot of time in and do a lot of work, you get a lot of out of it, and it's quite fun. There are also, you don't need a degree to do it. You can also go to TAFE and get Cert 3, Cert 4, or an advanced diploma. Or there's a lot of self-taught designers that just watch a bunch of YouTube videos and teach themselves over time. And they're kind of just as employable if they're good, because you get the job not really often through a resume or through going, I've done this degree. You get it by showing them your work you've already done. So when you graduate, you build a portfolio of your best uni assignments, and you show them that, and then they go, okay, cool. And now if I get a job, I show them my website of all the projects I've recently done, and they go, cool, that looks like you know what you're doing, we'll get you in. And it's a very it's not particularly a job where you submit like a Word document CV or anything. For better or worse, it means that a lot of jobs are kind of given to people that they know, and you just go to the pub with someone and then you get a job. So it's like not necessarily the most inclusive process, but it does reward networking.
Okay.
Mm.
What role does evaluation play in getting a good design?
Ooh. So all through the design process, you are constantly evaluating what you're doing. And I think what you're doing is that initial questioning part where you go like, what is the problem? It can be really easy to forget that because it's right at the start. And you go like, what is it? What is the problem we're doing? Okay, we're doing this. And you can get a bit distracted by trying to find cool and exciting and interesting ideas to you to solve it, that you can accidentally make something that doesn't work but looks nice. And so what you've got to do, and what having people around you, like a team, like having a creative director above you, can really help, is that you have these points every couple of days or every week where you take your work and you explain it to your boss, and they'll reevaluate it and go, yeah, does it actually do what we need it to do? Remember that problem we were trying to solve? Does it actually do that? And constantly going back. So it's done as part of a team where your boss will do it and you will all look at the ideas and go, what one does this best? And what if maybe we'll show them an idea that doesn't even solve that problem, but they might think it's cool anyway. So I think you've got to constantly evaluate your own ideas, and then you've got to have your other people evaluate them as well. And then it gets to the point in a project where the client, it's ready for you to show the client, and they go, yep, this one works best. And that's when you just pick one idea and you refine it. So it's kind of constantly evaluating against the initial problem, which, might be we've lost touch, or our brand doesn't look good on social media, or like a lot of brands have still not quite worked out how to look good on or behave or live on TikTok and Instagram and everything. Yeah. So that's often a bit of a problem, so that they just need to be adjusted.
Okay. What role does collaboration play for you in graphic design?
Collaboration. One of my favorite little ones is that often what I'm doing, because I design logos and I design typefaces, often a logo has the name in of the brand, but you have to make it look interesting so that someone remembers it or can associate, or maybe it has another sort of second meaning. For example, if the company does something to do with trees, you might make something look like a tree in the logo. So you want to kind of add other visual elements. And one of the biggest collaboration things is just I show a lot of people what I've done and go, what does this say? So that people, oh, what have I done? So I show a lot of people what I've done and go like, what does this say? So that like, can you read it? Because it's very easy to accidentally make something that's a bit unreadable, because you work with like a word for so long trying to come up with cool ways of writing it and making it seem interesting, that you can often design something accidentally unreadable. That's something I do a bit. And I think collaboration as well is there's not a lot of point collaborating with someone that's very similar to you. They're probably going to have, if they've got the same background, if they've got the same kind of ideas, you're probably just going to go, oh, your thing looks cool. And they go, your thing looks cool too. And you kind of both feed each other's, which is, it's going to create work that's fine. But if you have someone that can bring something else to the table, whether it's their skills, the way they work. So for example, I'm working with a designer who designs everything in software that I don't use. So he'll code animation in a program called Calvary, I think. And it's really weird, and it's generative computing stuff that he's doing. And so I'm working and kind of putting boxes and type and stuff around, and his thing will move and repeat and fall in on itself and do all this weird stuff. And so the place we get to in the end is not where I could get it alone, but he'll do weird, cool stuff that's like quite unrestrained and chaotic. And I'll take something that he's done and build a really like a robust system out of it. So going, okay, cool, we'll take this and this is how it's going to be on a poster, and this is how it's going to look on an Instagram story, and this is how it's going to look on the side of a car, let's say. And then we have something that will work. And so collaboration is always going to make the ideas more interesting, because you're going to get further than where you could get on your own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's it for my questions. You got anything else you want to add?
I don't know. I think that every time I try and tweak my own process in terms of design or anything. So I think I'm always trying to make it better, but I think the main focus, and something that is quite difficult, is that initial part of having the idea. Because once you've been doing graphic design for a while, you can kind of make anything look professional and neat. Like that becomes easy, and trying to have a good idea and a good story to tell becomes the hard part. And so one of the other skills that's really great to collaborate with is like a writer who can make, because often you're designing like it's communication design, so there's always something to say as well. So the company's got to like say what they're good at, or that their food tastes good, or that you should read their magazine. And so if you hire a writer as well, they're going to give you a fun way to say that. And it might mean that you don't have to make the design fun, because the writing's actually always really funny, or something like that. And so being able to like balance those skills is really good. I don't know. Don't know how detailed to get. Actually, don't worry. But I think that's always good, is trying to have an idea that doesn't involve what anything looks like. So for example, if you're trying to create, recently I worked on a brand that was trying to, they were a data company. So they take people's data. Well, no, people give them their data. People sell them their data, People sell them their data, and they use that data for, they sell that data on. But essentially it means that you don't give away your data for free. Like a lot of what happens now is you get a bit more control, and they sell ethical data to companies. So companies that want data get to buy ethical data off them. I said data a lot, sorry. But basically it could just look, because it's all data, it could look like a tech company. You could just solve it by going, let's make it look neat and clean, and a bit like maybe Apple, but that's quite a neat, clean brand. But it's not really an idea. It's just, let's make it look like, rather than going, what if the brand, and then we were trying to think about something that was an idea rather than something that looked like it. And so the idea that we came up with for this, because it was all about ethical data, and these are real people, so we should treat them as real people, and they should sell their data. We were trying to work out, well, what's another place you see real people? And so we built the whole idea of like ID cards and money, and like real world things that were authenticated. So we borrowed the visual language and the patterns off passports, all the complicated lines and stuff. So we sort of stole that from passports and from money, and those areas where you are authenticated. And we decided that was going to be what it was built around, was like real world authentication. And so trying to have an idea, because then everything else comes from that. But it takes a little while of playing with the idea before you can come up with something that isn't just, let's make it look nice. Does that make sense? So it's like, I think one of the biggest challenges is trying to have an idea that isn't just graphic design.
Okay.
Yeah. Because then what happened is the writer could write like those passports and IDs and that kind of thing. And everything kind of had that look.
Okay. I think that's probably good.
Nice. Sweet. So what's the unit? What's the class you're doing this for? Did you say it was called Design and Tech?
Yeah, DT, just design technology. We've just been looking at design processes, and just seeing how we can like plan our work out to make it better. Sort of.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Do you kind of have a design process that you've been taught or you've been doing?
It's pretty similar to yours, where it's like research and then make some plans, and then it's like plan how it's going to fit into the design brief and stuff, like how it's going to go in the time you have and what materials you're allowed and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then sort of make some plans for like how it could look and what it's going to be. And then you test it, and then you see what you can improve, and then you just tweak it and refine it till it's good.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, the testing is important. I think in my process, the sort of development stage is where you test it. Like that's where you kind of go, oh, well, they have to do this. Let's make it and see what happens. And then refining is taking on the client's feedback and finishing it all up. But yeah, I mean, I think my one's not a unique one. It's like basically what you're taught at uni, and then I haven't quite found better ways. I've tried skipping steps as well. Not a great idea. But yeah, I think that stage works well. I've also heard of a stage called like the diamond method, where like you go, it's often a diagram that's like you start here and then you come up with heaps of ideas, like heaps, and you go out and then you refine those and come up with one good idea, and then you test that in like heaps and heaps of different ways, and then you find the best and you go back in. And it's kind of the same, but that's another way that I've heard it talked about. Yeah, but I think the only other, no, I think I've said everything. I think as well, I don't have a particularly original design process, but it also depends where I'm working, because I work at a lot of different places at the moment, week to week, and they all have a different kind of way they work. So I've been plugging into other people's design processes recently as well.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Feel free to send any other just questions through, or if you're like, oh, forgot to ask this, or I want a bit more information on something, just hit me up, and you got my email. Yeah, and good luck with it.
Yeah, thank you. That's been pretty good.
Okay, do you want to see little Ruben?
Yeah, let's see Ruben. Hang on. Mike, are you downstairs? Dawn's asleep, I think.
Here he is.
Okay.
Hello.
Oh, what a treat. What a beautiful treat.
Cute.
How's it all going?
Yeah, really well. He's just been practicing his yelling. I was trying to keep him down.
We didn't notice that. Keep yelling, Ruben. Looking so gorgeous.
There you are.
Look.
Hi, Ruben. This is weird. Weird talking to you on the screen, isn't it? This is weird.
Yeah.
It's weird.
This is your first video call, isn't it?
It is.
First video call. It's a little bit upsetting.
Yeah.
Ruben, how old are you exactly these days? Tell us, Ruben, tell us.
I am 11 weeks tomorrow, I think, because he was born on a Monday.
Yeah.
Was he? Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
We just went into yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget. We went into the office on the hospital to a different day, and then, yeah.
I know
But yeah,
it's
11 weeks.
Ruben,
Flew
sorry.
by.
I know it's weird. It's weird meeting people like this. It's totally weird. Take a home, you come to. Little Ruben, see if my hand comes through. It's coming through. It's gonna touch you. Stop. We're toying with him. Stop it. Stop it, children.
Oh,
Okay. We
Not
will
so
love you
happy.
all and leave you.
See ya.
see you later.
Oh. Hang on,
right.
here's Michael. Michael wants to have a quick word with you.
Oh, hey, Micah. This is Micah.
Come down, say
Say hello.
Oh no, Ruben's getting a bit upset. Oh. We have a video which Micah doesn't quite difficult of Micah totally losing it. It's hilarious. And I'm just filming it, laughing like you are now.
How's your shoulder?
How's your
Good.
leg? How's the leg?
That's a,
The leg.
sorry, I'm finding it a bit hard to hear. But
You have to ask about the shoulder, the leg.
yeah, maybe so.
All right, come. We'll go.
Oh.
Okay.
All right, we'll see you later.
Yeah,
Chat soon.
see ya.
Good luck with
Super
everything.
duper.
Thanks so much.
Bye. No
Bye.
worries.